Assessment of basketball in high school physical education using the sport education model. This video journal is by Raylene Kawila and
Daryl Denson.
Introducing the sport education model. So this iMovie is about how to use assessment in a high school physical education class. This unit was designed for a class of 11th graders. The purpose of assessment is to gather evidence of a student's level of achievement and enhancing student learning. Assessment is important to our unit because it is authentically related to class goals and student performance that can be used for evaluation and grading purposes.
Advanced organization. In this slide, you see how we have how to set up a block plan when using the sport education model, the objectives that tie with our unit, assessments on each 4 learning domains to collect data, which will be the affective, psychomotor, and cognitive, and fitness, and what type of assessments are appropriate for each learning domain. Unit objectives. When teaching a sport education model, the most important objective that you would have is the affective. The affective domain, the students will be able to demonstrate teamwork and use positive talk through the unit to accomplish team and individual goals. The second important objective would be the psychomotor, where you can see the students will demonstrate competence in team sports by using motor skills and movement patterns learned to get open and score during a game. The cognitive domain, students will be understanding when to get open and when to prevent scoring during a game. The fitness domain, students will be able to demonstrate cardiovascular endurance by participating in gameplay the whole time without taking a break. And here we go with the block plan. The block plan, you want to have 3 weeks, 15-day unit. First week, you want to have a preseason. Second week, you would want to have a regular season. And the third week will be the tournament season, which you would have as the postseason of the basketball tournament. In this block plan, you have 5 assessments. Week 1, you'll be introducing sport education, the aspects of the game, aspects of the roles, and the practice of the games. Week 2, you'll have the introduction of the affective domains, team practices, creating strategies, and gameplay. Week 3, you'll have straight tournament play, and then you'll have the final assessment of the unit.
Week 1 is the preseason. On day 1, students will come in and take a written diagnostic assessment that will help the teacher learn about any prerequisite knowledge that students may have about basketball, team roles, and teamwork. And the teacher will then be able to modify the block plan to include the developmentally appropriate sequence for these students. After that, the idea of the journal entries get introduced to students. On day 2 is when students will then be split into teams, and they will then have to choose roles inside of the teams. Throughout the week, journal entries are assigned based on what the objective was for the day and what the teacher wants them to think about going into the next day. On day 4, there is an informal cognitive assessment for the teacher to assess whether or not students are picking up and understanding the roles that they chose and whether or not they are performing them correctly. On day 5, students will be given a self-assessment on learning how to take heart rate and then apply that to their fitness objective, which is that students should be giving max effort. This is what the role selection sheet looks like that students will be given. Here they choose their team name, team colors, and what each role that every member will have. There is a description of what the role entails and what they will be responsible for during the unit. This is the fitness assessment that students were given to show that they were meeting the fitness objective. It also gives instructions on how to find the maximum heart rate and the percentages that they need to show that they gave effort throughout the unit. Week 2 is the regular season. This is where teams will have an adequate opportunity to get in practice sessions to work on what the coaches and the teacher agree that the teams need to improve on skill-wise. The assessment for this week occurs on day 8. It is a psychomotor and cognitive formal assessment that the teacher will be given. Week 3 is the postseason, which is set up in a tournament style, which is our culminating event for this unit. On day 12, students will be given a peer assessment. They will be peer assessing how well they think their team performed their individual roles. They will be giving a number rating 1 through 4 on how well each team member did their role. 1 being the worst, 4 being the best. The teacher will not be using this as a grade, but rather as another way to view cooperation and
highlighted objectives for assessment. With using the sport education model for basketball, the most important objective that you want to have assessments for is the affective domain. This would consist of good sportsmanship, communication skills amongst one another, the ability to work with others. The psychomotor will be assessing decision making, how students are playing defense, scoring with the ball, and moving to get open. The cognitive assessment will reflect on what information the students are retaining for their own knowledge and applying them to improve their individual and team goals. The final one would be health related, which would be the heart rate checks after each game the students play in. Assessment procedures. When having a sport education model, you will need to have assessments. These assessments will need to be conducted properly and also be organized the proper way for each assessment. These type of assessments can be done, which are done in the written assessment, clicker assessment, journal assessment, and the GPAI testing of skill. Assessment 1 will be a written assessment. With this type of assessment, you want to separate the students across the gym, facing the same direction, emphasizing that their eyes need to be on their own work. 20 questions are reasonable for this type of assessment. If you want to use short answer, make sure that you have enough space that the students can write what they are thinking. The recording of this assessment will be used for the teacher based on the results through students' goals. The next part of this will be availability and reliability. The availability will be more logic because of the analyzation that the students will be doing of prerequisites of the roles that they know for tournaments and the rules of basketball. The reliability of this will be the assessment will work well to see if students are accurately engaging with the material they are learning in the class. How to interpret for each assessment. Their interpretation will provide a baseline for what students do and don't know about basketball. How to use the results for each assessment. The results can be used to modify the block plan so that students can get more or less time spent on a specific area that they are struggling in on these written assessments. As you can see, to the left of your screen, you have what the written assessment would look like for the students. And then you have the possible answer sheet that you can come up with for each question that you will be providing. The second assessment that will be used is a clicker assessment. This will have the students assigned with numbers that are corresponding cards. Students will need to answer the question with this assessment. Students are not allowed to talk and facing in the same direction and at least arm's length apart. The teacher will put the questions up on the board online, and once the students are ready to answer the question, they will hold the card up and the teacher will come by with a tablet to scan it. The data is recorded automatically online under the student's name. It will also show a percentage of how many students have passed the question and how many students are struggling with the question. The interpretation for this is that if you see that there is a high rate of students that are meeting the learning objective And also you will see the students that are poorly answering the question and that still need help understanding the rules. The way to use the results is to see where the teacher needs to really modify the objectives if students are struggling to reach the competency level. On this slide, you can see that there is an example of a Plicker assessment. Onto the left, there is a card, and onto the right of the screen, there is the questions that you can see that are used for this type of assessment.
The team portfolios will be used to gather work from the coach, referee, scorekeeper, manager, and the publicist. This is just to show the teacher that each role was. The team portfolios are used to assess the students' accountability in completing the assignments. This is just to show that each role completed something related to its job description. So a coach would have to turn in a practice sheet that they came up with or that they applied to their team that was given to them from the teacher. The referee would have to log how many fouls they called, if they were fair, and how confident they were in completing the role. The scorekeeper collected the data and the score sheets and organized them for the manager. The manager was responsible for organizing the work, helping the coach set up, keeping the team on task, and keeping track of the portfolio. The publicist was responsible for advertising the tournament, flyers about the team, and letters inviting administration to the tournament. This is important because you can interpret how well students completed their roles and how seriously they took their assignment. In Assessment 4, students will be assessed on their competence in team sports. Here they will be playing a 3v3 game where the teacher is assessing their skill competency in ball skills, offensive play, individual defensive play, and team defense. The journal entries and heart rate were used as a form of self-assessment for students to see their effort and be able to reflect on their skills and participation and their goals throughout the unit. A copy of the journal entry questions are here. It starts at day 1 from when they're handed out to day 13, their last question. And this is our conclusion.
Hope you guys enjoyed.